Any questions while we're waiting?
I do have a few.
Go ahead, Candace.
So in the books, it talks about listening to tracks. I maybe am not there yet in terms of finding it, but how do we do this track stuff?
Okay. Let me share something here. First of all, in your volunteer welcome information, which is continually being updated, actually.
Yeah, I just knew one of those.
I'm sorry, do you have that?
Yeah, I did. I just saw a new one came out too.
Yeah. So you should definitely bookmark that. So you click on, where is it? Down here where it says online curriculum intercambio. Click on that, and it'll come up with this page here, which gives you information on how to access the books. Have you done that yet, Candace?
I've gotten through that. It's just when I'm working in the book, there are some things that say, listen to track 7 or something like that. And I haven't figured out where is a track 7?
Yeah. So like in lesson number 3, there was definitely play track 10 or something.
Right.
So if you go down here past the books, it says accessing the audio.
That part I didn't see. Okay.
And it talks about 2 ways you can do it. If you download the Intercambio app on your phone, you can play them 1 track at a time. If you go to YouTube, they have all the tracks for the whole book on 1 YouTube video. And so, for example, in lesson 3, they say play. We're in book 5L, and it says play track 10.
Great.
So I don't know if you can see this, but down here, so here we're in track 10, back here in track 9, track 11.
Okay.
So that's how you do it.
Great. Okay. Yeah, I didn't see the bottom of that. Thank you. That helps.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So here's a question. Do you have a sound cable between your phone and your computer? Is it possible to use the app on your phone and play the single tracks more easily?
So you mean pipe the audio into your computer or something?
Yeah, I mean, if it's confusing to use the YouTube for some reason, because it's all the tracks.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. Any ideas here on making your phone loud enough for everybody to hear?
Well, can you download the app on a desktop or a laptop, or no?
I don't know. I would think you probably can. I mean, you can download like WhatsApp to a laptop.
I really think you could. Well, I'll look at it later and maybe let people know if I find it. But that could be a good way if it does work.
But if we had a tab open on our browser for that YouTube video all teed up and ready to go, in theory, then
That's true. That would work also.
If we just did share then and pull that one up?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. When you share it, of course, you would want to turn on audio before as you're bringing up the share.
Yeah.
Is that something you can manipulate without setting it up ahead of time, or is that something that the leader has access to regularly?
You're talking about turning on audio for your
Is that something that's easily done?
Yeah, you can do it in the middle of your meeting. You do have to, if you don't have it turned on for what you're currently sharing, for example, which I don't, then you'd have to stop your share, and when you start the share again, you'd go down and click in the lower left-hand corner. So I can demonstrate it, but I can be able to see it. But I think, yeah, we went over that, I think back on Monday. And it's in the presentation for lesson 1. There's a screen that comes up that shows all the apps you have running on your computer, and then there's also a box for the Zoom whiteboard. And down in the lower left-hand corner, it says enable audio.
I had another question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I tried to access the student book and I didn't see that come up yet under purchases. Am I doing something wrong?
You have to log in differently, I think.
Ah.
Well,
Okay.
I heard the question. I didn't hear the answer. What was the answer?
There's a different login for the teacher's versions and the student versions.
Right. And
Okay.
each student book has a different login. If you want to look at book 1L, then the login is, username is 1L@beavertonliteracy.org. The password is always the same, but the login is different.
Great. And then last question. I think you had already mentioned ordering the hard copy books. That's not something we're ready to do yet.
We're not planning to do that until we know how many students want copies of the hard copy book, which we won't know until the end of the first week of class. So it's going to be probably October before we get those hard copy books.
Okay.
Again, if you want to order it yourself, BLC will reimburse you if you feel like you need it ahead of time.
And we have information on where to order that from, to order it directly. I'm sure it's in something that you sent us.
Lisa, do you know that answer?
I don't remember seeing that in any of the instructions or any of the detail at all. If you know what level you're teaching, you can go right to the website,
Okay.
I would think,
Yeah.
and order it. But no, to answer it, Jim, I don't remember seeing it.
Yeah. Linda Bonder sent out some mail a while back that I've got a copy of. I'll take a look at that. Yeah, we're kind of hoping you can get by with the online copy, at least until
Yeah.
we put in that order.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? Okay, kind of behind schedule here, sorry. Okay, what's next? No, that's the wrong end. Okay, we're almost done, folks. Since we often tend to lose the end of these training sessions, I'd like to go through some stuff that you might find useful. One of them is to be sure that you have bookmarked the volunteer welcome page. That was probably, if you volunteered before the beginning of August, you probably received a pointer to that in August. I think I included a link to it in my homework email from Wednesday night. Anyway, it's just a really good piece of information. There's a lot of good stuff there. Included in that is information about intercombio book access and video access, which we were just talking about. Does anybody having trouble with that? Okay, good, very good. Okay, Linda Bonder, who's president of the BLC, has made a whole lot of good videos. There's a couple of videos on the videos page that is linked from the welcome page. There's a couple of her videos that are like half-hour samples of her teaching using Zoom. And I encourage you to look at those if you want some guidance on how that might work. If you have Spanish-speaking students in your class, there's a good chance that WhatsApp is what they're going to be using to communicate with each other. And it might be a good idea to set up a WhatsApp group for your class to make it easy to share, links to homework and documents that you created in class and things like that. On the other hand, it's very important that you respect your students' privacy and not include them in a WhatsApp group if they don't want to be, because my experience, I'm not a great WhatsApp expert. My experience is that the student's phone number shows up when they post something in WhatsApp. WhatsApp is basically it's a instant messaging service. But what's nice about it is you can run it from your laptop. And so you can, it's easy to post links and even files from your laptop into WhatsApp where your students can see it.
So will you be providing how to install the WhatsApp app on your computer in some form? Like directions later on?
That's a reasonable request. I'm going to, sorry, I'm writing down.
What was the question, Robert?
I asked if you give directions on how to download the WhatsApp on the computer system.
I'll send out a link after class. I think what I did is just Googled install WhatsApp or something like that.
Okay.
It was straightforward, and I'm not very smart, but I was able to do it pretty quick. Next on our list is clean up before class. It's really good since you're going to be sharing things. When you start the share, people can see all the apps you're running and all of the all the tabs on your browser, that kind of thing. So it's a good idea, and it's a good idea to have stuff open only that you're going to use. And secondly, it's good to have everything that you expect to use open. I've got a whole bunch of tabs up here because I kind of expect to show you different things.
And when you complete something, you close the tab so it's as you go, so it's not as confusing, or does that make any
You
difference?
certainly can, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, I didn't clean up very well today because I was working right up till 5:45 on this. If you use more than one device, and they're going to be next to each other, you need to turn down the volume on all the devices but one. Otherwise, you'll get feedback, and it's really bad. It's not good enough to mute the device. You have to turn down the volume of the device. You don't want that device to be making any noise at all. Some of your students will be doing Zoom from their phone. It's good to remind them to use their phone in landscape mode, so to speak, because the Zoom window tends to be kind of a wide rectangle, and it's better suited to that orientation of your phone. One last thing to remember is that what you see of yourself is a mirror image. What everybody else sees is not a mirror image. For example, I'm pointing to the right, but does it look like I'm pointing to the right?
No.
Stage left.
Looks like I'm pointing left, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, it depends. Does it? I mean, we're facing you.
Right. Am I pointing to my right or to my left?
It looks like you're pointing to your right,
That's
but
what I would say.
I am in fact pointing to my right. What it looks like in the mirror is it looks like I'm pointing to my left. Okay, so I'm seeing a mirror image of myself. You are seeing my actual image, okay?
There is a way in their profile to change that, so you.
Yes,
Because I did see that also, if you want to.
that's occasionally important, like if you're teaching directions, right, left, that kind of thing. Mostly you need to be aware of that. Okay, some brilliant observations. Several taken from the ways Jim screwed up list. Okay, let's talk about security. When you are host, you have the security option on your menu. And we talked about most of these things. So you can control whether your participants can share, whether they can chat, whether they can rename themselves. I don't see any reason why not to rename themselves, not to allow them to rename themselves unless they start getting silly. Lock meeting. I would only do that if all my students, I know all my students have arrived. And
Right.
one thing to keep in mind is some of these people have sort of tenuous internet connections, and so they can get dropped off in the middle of the class. And if your meeting is locked, they can't get back in. Similarly, I wouldn't enable a waiting room at the beginning of the class. I just let students go ahead and join. Again, at the end of the class, you might want to enable waiting rooms. If you don't want to end the meeting, but you want students to leave, you can just put them in the waiting room. Like if I want to talk to my assistant, Robert, immediately after the class, then I put all the other students who haven't left yet in the waiting room.
Mhm.
Because they tend not to leave until you actually close the meeting, a lot of them.
Oh, what's that? It's tiny.
Okay, some other things you can do as, just a minute,
Oh.
I'm sorry. Let's see here. Oh. Sorry, now you can see a little better, I think. Again, you can mute your individual students. You can also mute all in the participants window. I really recommend not removing a student unless you never want to see that person in your class again. Okay, because it's a permanent removal of the person. Okay, here are some recommendations from the BLC. Again, we're suggest having waiting rooms off until the end of, unless you need them at the end of the meeting to push students out of out of the main room. We use simple passwords like English 2020 and 2020, sorry. And they're fairly broadly shared, students and everything. We don't think we have anything to hide, and we don't think we have any, we don't have any intellectual property that we're trying to keep from the world. I recommend against locking the room for the reasons I just stated. In your profile, I think you can enable or disable a doorbell when somebody rings, which is handy. If somebody joins when you're when you're sharing, you can actually be apprised of somebody joining the class.
So was that a recommendation for using the doorbell? Or,
The recommendation is, yeah, that you enable the doorbell. Like I see myself and I see 3 other people right now. So if somebody joined, I might not be aware.
oh,
that
right.
they joined. Okay. So the default for participants sharing their screens is off. If you're in an intermediate or advanced class where you feel like your students can handle it, you can, teach them how to share and enable that. I would probably not do it below level 4, but that's just a guess. And I would definitely disable private chats among participants because it could be a distraction. Any questions about this?
One quick question. Is
Yeah.
a lot of these functions under the participants tab, the other ones you were listing off right now?
Yeah, some of them are. Let's see here. I'm gonna get out of presentation here. Yeah, so some of them are participants view. Some of them are in your profile.
It's just a matter of clicking on it to see what you have available. If you
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
activate something by doing that.
And I tend to forget from time to time what's where.
Right. Okay.
Mostly we're trying to just make sure you're aware that these options are available. Let's see. So I'm going to share an empty doc that, let's see, now where are we? Ah, so Lisa's been writing down, she's been our secretary. So she's been writing down what we, questions and answers here, which I really appreciate. So what I'd like is for, the question is, so we don't have a classroom whiteboard. So what do we don't have to write this down, but what do we have in place of a classroom whiteboard, everybody?
A whiteboard function on Zoom.
The whiteboard function on Zoom.
Just using the document and sharing the document, a blank
Right.
document.
Yeah, basically the share function, of which the Zoom whiteboard is one option.
Is there a preference one way or another?
I would say, yeah. I would. My experience, and I think Lisa's too, probably Linda's, is that using Google Docs is preferable.
Yeah. Jim, scroll down to the next page,
Yeah. Okay.
please.
Okay.
There, I started it here.
Yeah. Okay. So why is it preferable? Number one, it's a lot easier to type in a Google Doc than it is in the whiteboard, the Zoom whiteboard. You have, if you want to, leave some space and go down, then you have to generally you find yourself starting a new text box, that kind of thing. And all of the annotation options that you have with the Zoom whiteboard, you also have when you're sharing any other document, a Google Doc or a Word document, that kind of stuff. And the thing about a Google Doc is that the student doesn't have to have any special software on their on their device in order to view what's there. Okay, so let's just brainstorm here, and Lisa's going to write things down. The question is, what kind of things do you think you will share in your class? For example, you might share a video, okay? What are some other things? Just not rocket science here. There's some obvious things.
Images, pictures.
I drew a lot of pictures when teaching last year, using the whiteboard to actually draw pictures. So
Okay.
I'm not sure. It looked like on the whiteboard demonstration that you gave us on Wednesday that we could draw.
Yes. Yeah, you can. It's when you were drawing, were you drawing on the physical whiteboard or on a Zoom whiteboard?
On a physical whiteboard, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I do a lot of charts.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then color code.
A lot of drawing arrows, to circling things as they're talking.
Yeah. Now, it's kind of awkward to draw with your mouse. Not as easy as with a marker. So it's something you should practice before you try it in the class.
Yeah.
And obviously you can add text pretty quickly as Lisa's doing here when you're sharing a document. You can also pull in, just if you're in your browser, you can go to Google Images and, what's a pumpkin? Let's go look at, let's go get a picture of a pumpkin. Do that.
I was
So what
thinking of links, perhaps, like we have this, like the student's supposed to choose one of the other, like you're talking about forms of the Beaver and do it correctly.
So worksheets.
Yeah.
And then you can use the annotation function to fill in the answers as the student provides them.
Not only that, you can ask the other students if they think it's correct before you actually gave the correct answer, just
Right.
to see understanding.
You can type in what they told you, and then if somebody corrects them, you can erase it or you can cross it out. I'm not sure there's cross out in Google Doc. I haven't used it yet.
Sometimes one of the things that I would do is sometimes I'll pull information from different curriculums. So whether it's a paragraph that I want them to read or we read together, and then it's got some, Q&A afterward, I will actually scan it and then I share that. So it'll be in my folder, but I'm sharing it with them. And then because it's a scan, I can send it, I can include it in the homework docs or in the Google Doc that I send them after class.
Yeah. I'm gonna actually move to a different tab here. There's one thing I forgot to do. When I sent you the link to the homework, that is, I forgot to share the homework. I don't know if you can see up here, but in a Google Doc, there is a share button up in the upper right-hand corner. If you can't see it, you might want to move your video box around away from it. And when you share it, when you type share, a dialogue like this comes up. And if you want to share it with all your students, you want to go down here. So right now, this one says restricted, only people added can open with this link. So if I wanted to share it with just certain people, I'd type in those
Mhm.
people's email addresses up here. If I wanted, in most cases, I don't care who sees it. I'm just sharing. I want to share it with the whole class, and I don't care who else sees it. So we'd go down here where it says change to anyone with the link, and you click on that. And then you can also click on copy link, which would copy the link for the current document into your clipboard. And then you can paste that into your email or to WhatsApp, whatever. Okay, what's something else that you're going to want to share probably that's really important that we haven't listed here? How about the student's book?
Oh, yeah.
Want to share pages from the online book
Mhm.
so that this, that's what the students are going to have. So you want to, and that's where your lessons are going to come from. Okay. Thanks, Lisa. Or anything else that, and we can share this. Lisa can share this after class.
Yep.
So let's move on. Only half an hour to go, guys.
Oh, wow.
I think we're going to survive. Okay. There are two screens here that I want you to take pictures of. This one, take a picture of this one. I'll put it in presentation mode so I can see it better. Can you see it now?
I have just 1
Mhm.
second now. It's coming up.
These are things you're gonna discuss in your breakout room.
Oh, come on. There we go.
That's not what I want.
Okay, everybody got that? If only one or two of you don't have it, that's okay, because somebody in the breakout room will have it.
Yep.
Okay. All
Another
right.
one?
Let's go to the next. I'll take a picture of this too.
Wait, did it change?
Yeah, it did change.
Oh, okay.
First one was 1 through 6. This is 7 through 11.
All right, I'm still seeing.
I'm
my-
still
1
seeing
through
it.
6. Yeah.
So I don't think it changed.
Yeah, it didn't change on your share screen, Jim.
Really?
No,
Okay.
that's why I was asking.
Well,
There you go.
There we go. That looks better.
All right. Let's see if this
okay.
come on. Let's see. There you go.
Yeah, you should see 7 through 11 now.
I do.
Yep.
Okay. Before we get into the breakout room, notice item number 11 here, minimal text per screen.
Mhm.
Here's 7 through 11 again. Which do you think is better for a Zoom class? This one or this one?
First one.
Yeah, first one. Pretty obvious.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. It's the same information. What about this? Yeah, okay.
The same type of thing.
This is a little more spread out than this, but it's
Yeah.
basically the same word. It's too much to read. There's the old PowerPoint rule of seven, where you should have no more than 7 items on your screen and no more than 7 words per item. And that's especially true when students are on their phone, maybe trying to
Mm-hmm.
take the class on their
Yeah.
phone. Okay, I'm going to give you 7 minutes in breakout rooms. And I want you to discuss any of these things that seem of interest to you. You're not gonna have time to discuss all of them, but we don't have that much time left. So I think I can probably give you 3 people per room. Okay. So what are we gonna do? What are you gonna do in your breakout room?
We're going to talk about all those items.
Right. And then we're gonna come back and you can share the ideas that you came up with, okay?
Okay.
All right, here you go.
Sorry, we cut you off there.
No, we could use an hour just for that easily.
Yeah, I know. It was a lot to discuss in 7 or 8 minutes. So Lisa, are you ready to be scribe again?
To be what?
To be scribe? We're gonna,
Sure. Can I
write
ask a
down-
question? Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I couldn't remember. So each teacher, I'm pretty sure that when I was in person, I had student name, I had student phone number, and I had email. Is that going to be the same for the Zoom classes? Do you know?
Yes, you'll have that information.
Just those 3 pieces, right?
Well, and where they're from
Oh, that's right.
and
Yeah.
the language they speak.
Okay.
You'll have at least that much.
Okay.
Forget what else. We didn't ask occupation
Mhm.
occupation or education this year.
Okay.
Probably provide you test scores too.
Okay.
That's a good, I don't think we've even talked about that.
No, we didn't. I think Candace asked me when we were in our breakout room.
About the rosters,
Yes.
On the road, yeah, it's
what'll be on the roster this week?
gonna called the online teacher information sheet,
The Otis.
the Otis.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna call it the roster.
I actually like that little acronym. I think it's fun.
Yeah.
The Otis.
Okay, so I'm gonna share. Here's an email that we just got. I'm sharing Lisa's doc again. So what are some profound things you came up with during your breakout room?
Well, we talked a lot about the pros and cons of technology, how much is too much, and how it can, like talking about bandwidth and how it can actually interfere with the fluidity of the lesson if you can't pull up the YouTube video or people can't hear it, or so that could be a challenge. And then, like, I'm teaching beginning levels, and so less is more in that case.
Very good. I'm teaching a level 1, 2 as well, Toby.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, and
Deborah, you have
something,
any? Oh, go ahead, Bruce.
it's just to follow up because I was in the same group. Also for the lower level classes, just how much instructors are usually very physical, like move around the classroom and use manipulables and really kind of get students physically involved. And online teaching is very video oriented. So you're missing out on a really important part of the teaching experience, especially, like I said, with the lower levels.
That's a good point. You might want to even insert a 5-minute break or something, even in a video class. One thing I think we all kind of get Zoom fatigue after about an hour, right?
Mhm.
Right.
And some of the people on the board wanted to do 90-minute classes, and some of us wanted to do 60-minute classes. Probably the lower level
Yeah.
teachers wanted to do 60-minute classes. So we compromised at 75 minutes. Another thing to be aware of is we schedule these classes pretty close to each other. And in particular, the 9:30 class ends at 10:45. And then there's an 11 o'clock class that's going to start using the same Zoom login. So if you've got a 9:30 class, you have to get off of that pretty quickly after your time is up. Or you're going to be bumping into the person who's trying to get in for the 11 o'clock meeting. So any idea? Yeah, so Bruce or anybody, did you have any ideas for combating the lack of manipulatives, the lack of getting up and moving around?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I think we just bemoaned it.
Yeah, got it. Understand. Well, it's not, this medium has some advantages, but it definitely has some disadvantages. Okay.
What I was going to add to that was just because of having worship services with our church, if you stand back from your computer screen, it is possible to see more than just your face. So depending on what kind of hand motions or something that's interactive to remember how to say something or do something like maybe with verbs, something with an action word, maybe you could possibly have the students get up and actually act something out and see if others can say what it is, or different places you can do something like that.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
I think that I talk with my hands a lot, so I think that's a great suggestion. I'll pull back so you can continue to talk with your hands. But
yeah.
One of the things that I found just in teaching with person, which I hope to be able to do with the Zoom too, is a lot of back and forth instead of me just talking the whole time. Lots of putting it in each of their courts to have a chance to talk, whether it's reading things aloud for practice or asking each other's questions. So.
Yeah, minimize teacher talking time is always a good idea. Yep. Anything else?
Oh, excuse me.
We talked about a lag with particularly with phones, with cell phones. So giving people more time to answer questions or talk, it might be a concern.
Sorry, I've got a phone ringing here, waiting for my wife to answer it. Yeah, so one suggestion from Lyndon, I think makes a good idea is, number one is when you ask a question, give your students a little bit of time to come up with an answer. If they haven't answered in 3 seconds, give them 10 more seconds. And number two, another thing you can do is you can ask, first of all, you can call on individuals.
Right.
Okay. You can also call on 2 or 3. Robert and Deborah, what do you think about this? Bruce and Katie, what do you think the answer to number 5 is? That kind of thing. And that way, there's not pressure on one student, but you will eventually get an answer, pretty quickly. Anything else before we move on? Okay. Thanks, Lisa. Lisa, you're gonna mail out a pointer to this after class?
Yes.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Well, we're almost there. Let's see here. again, these lesson plans, we don't really have time to discuss them in class here, but I do encourage you to look at them just to see the various ways you can supplement the curriculum.
Mhm.
Again, I think anytime you're preparing a lesson that you haven't taught before, you should probably allow yourself at least an hour to prepare something. Go through the lesson in the book so that you're familiar with it before you start the class. You don't want to be leafing through the book while you're teaching your class.
And the other thing too, if I can add, is that it doesn't matter how detailed and, you know, how much format you add to it, it is going to get derailed. It just happens because the students love to ask questions, especially if they worked that day. I had one student, she always came in with everything she heard at work that day, and she wanted to ask about it. Is this right? Is this right? So, and it's all good information because it's all information that they'll use in everyday language, language exchange. So, yeah, just allow for that, because that will happen, and that's really important because that's the everyday stuff that they're looking for as well.
Right, but I'd also encourage you to over prepare, because some lessons just go faster because they've got better prior knowledge about it, and you can kind of whip through it, and then you're going, okay, now what am I going to do?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
I always had an extra sheet that I brought. I had an extra sort of go-to, and it had some links in there. It had some videos. It had some games. It had some readers online. And if that happened, I immediately went to that sheet and said, okay, we're going to do something totally different now. And I would just pull that out. So yeah, definitely, I think that's a good point.
And another thing that I think is really important is opportunities to review. So you can start off each session with, you know, a quick couple of minutes of review. And then also opportunities for practice, because the book, I mean, I know it spirals back, but there's not a lot of opportunity to practice. And so it takes multiple times of doing something to help it sink in. And practice in different ways.
Can I just ask, it's a question for you all. What did you find were the most useful ways for an assistant teacher to be helpful?
See, it's different with this. I would be thinking it would be the breakout rooms.
Mm-hmm.
I would sort of agree with that. Because within your level, you might, it might come to light that you might have different levels within your level. And for students that maybe need a little bit more practice or a little bit more attention, you can have an assistant work directly with them. That comes in very, very helpful to keep them with the group. The assistant can work with them. So that's something.
Yeah.
Certainly in the low levels, just getting the students to understand what you want them to do in an exercise can be very tough. And so if your assistant can act as, you know, the smart student that knows what you're talking about, you can, you know, demonstrate a dialogue, demonstrate an exercise, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And what I was going to say is last spring when I was teaching, I didn't have an assistant, but there were a couple of students that were really sharp and ahead of others. And so by splitting up my groups and making sure that I had one of those students in each group, it was reinforcing their skills as they helped others.
Yeah.
Jim, is there a way to assign participants to particular breakout rooms? Yes,
there is.
Okay.
I haven't done it, but yes, you can completely, it can be completely at your discretion who goes where. You can allocate people randomly and then say, oh, don't want that person in this room. I want to put this person in this room and put this person in that room, that kind of thing. You can, so you can, what's the word? Tentatively create rooms automatically and then fix them up before you actually open the room.
So Bruce, I didn't really know how to do that. So I actually went out on YouTube and I found a little video that actually it's by Zoom and it showed how to do that. So yeah.
Yeah, if you just Google Zoom managed breakout rooms, I think you'll find that. And also in the BLC's page of great videos, there's a video by Linda where she demonstrates how to create breakout rooms.
Oh, and there's those two, Jim, you wanted me to remind everybody, those two that are actually the sample videos of Linda teaching the ESL classes.
Right, yeah, on that same page, forget what, there are two, toward the bottom, there are two videos of half-hour videos of Linda teaching ESL classes via Zoom, just for examples. Okay, boy, didn't make it. Sorry. Almost, we're almost done here. Okay. Last slide. So first of all, I definitely want you to be aware of that volunteer welcome page. It's been updated recently. It's got links to everything you need. You should definitely bookmark that. I've given you the link 2 or 3 times. If anybody wants the link again, just go ahead and email me and I'll send it to you. And while we were preparing for while his class was starting, Linda Bonder sent out an email to all the volunteers and talking about what's coming up. There's some great stuff coming up in terms of more help with you coming up to speed. Next week, there will be some informal drop-in hours, kind of office hours, where you can join a Zoom session where there's, people from the board there that you can talk to ask questions. There's a facility to allow you to pair up with other volunteers so you can practice your Zoom. One can be the host, the other can be a student, that kind of thing. Students will be getting their class assignments soon, probably Tuesday of next week. I know that at least a couple of you probably don't have your assignments yet. You should get an assignment probably this weekend, definitely by Monday. Okay, at least I will. We'll email you with a proposed assignment. You can write back and say, yeah, that's okay. End of next week, you should get your class rosters, your online teacher information sheets. That's all in the email here. That's it for me. Any other questions before we wrap it up?
I think I'm good.
Okay, well, thank you very much. You've been a very good class. I've learned a lot preparing for the class. Some really good questions. And there's the BLC board is really firing on all pistons. It's 7 of the most hardworking people that I've ever seen, and they work working together well as a team, as I think. And so there's a lot of information for you out there, and a lot of opportunities for you to get oriented and come up to speed. So I just hope you'll take advantage of them. And I appreciate the time that you spent that you invested in doing this training. That's all for me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And don't forget about the drop-in hours next week. So
yeah, read that email from Linda.
Yeah, if you've got any questions or you're just not sure on how to work with something, manage something, then drop in. I think they're going to be a little bit different. Like this was a 6 to 7. I think this might be a 7:30 to 8:30. I think we're firming it up. So watch for the email.
Okay,
Thank you so
Very good.
much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
bye-bye. Feel free to
Bye.
call me or email me if you have questions.